Hello and welcome to helpyourmath.com. In this video on the cost of home ownership, we're going to talk more about amortizing a loan. Now, in a previous video, I did examples showing how mortgages were calculated and showing how monthly payments were calculated. We're going to refer back to one of those examples in this video. How the mortgage works. While the monthly payment stays the same throughout the term of the loan, the amount of money that goes towards the interest versus the principal changes. The first several monthly payments will mostly be interest payments. Initially, typically 50% or more will go towards interest. Then as the loan gets closer to the end of its term, the majority of the monthly payment is principal. So I actually did the math on my very first mortgage, and it turns out my very first payment, 34% went towards the principal, which means 66% was going towards interest. Now, mortgage lenders like to do this because there is no prepayment penalty. So if you pay your mortgage off early, they can't impose a fee anymore. They used to be able to, but now they can't. At least as of this recording, that is still intact. So this means the reason they want their interest up front is because they want to make sure that they're making as much money off this loan as possible. They're making it possible for you to buy a house, which is pretty cool. They also want something in return, i.e. your money. So that's why we mostly pay a lot of interest in the beginning, and then as we get closer to the end of the term, it's just more principal. When the regularly scheduled payments have been determined, an amortization schedule can be created. It shows how the payment is split between the principal and interest. And here's the computation that we'll use. Step 1, we calculate the interest for the month. We're going to take the previous balance of principal. We're going to multiply it by the annual interest rate, and remember, we want to convert this annual interest rate into its equivalent decimal by dividing by 100 or moving the decimal point 2 places to the left. And because that's the annual rate, but we're looking at a monthly payment in this example, we're going to divide it by 12 or multiply by 1/12 of a year. So this is just saying we're just taking that annual and we're converting it to monthly. This is the same thing as dividing by 12. I like dividing by 12 because it's just fewer things I have to type into the calculator. Okay, so that's going to tell us the interest for that month's payment. The payment on principal will be your regular monthly payment minus the interest for the month that we calculated in step 1. Then in step 3, the new balance of principal, so we're going to take that old balance of principal or the previous balance of principal and subtract the payment on the principal that we did and calculated in step 2. And that's going to be the new principal, and then we repeat this process month after month. Okay, so we're going to look at the example where we have a $450,000 mortgage at 2.5% interest for 30 years. In that previous video I mentioned, the monthly payments were $1,778.04. So that's what we want to remember. And let's figure out in the first few months of this loan, how much is going towards interest and how much is going towards principal. So we're going to prepare the first 3 months of an amortization schedule for Billy and Teddy, given this information. Okay, so the previous balance, if this is the very first month, then the previous balance is just the amount of the mortgage. So for month 1, I'm going to label this month 1. And you want to make sure you have a calculator handy. So if you need to, pause the video, find a calculator, because you definitely want to make sure you can do the calculations with me. Okay, so the previous balance of the loan from month 1 is $450,000 because we haven't paid anything towards it yet. The annual interest rate, we're going to convert, remember, 2.5%. If we divide it by 100 to convert it to its equivalent decimal, will be 0.025. So we're going to see that again and again, 0.025. And then I'm going to divide by 12, but remember, if you want to, you can multiply by 1/12. So let's pull up the calculator and do this calculation together. Okay, so I'm going to type in my calculator 450,000 times 0.025, or just 0.025. We need to make sure that 0 between the decimal point and the 2 is there. I don't need the leading 0, but it's fine to have it too. And then divided by 12. And we get $937.50. $937.50. Okay, so this is the interest that is going to be paid in that very first mortgage payment. Step 2, the payment on the principal. So the principal, before I get to step 2, I'm just going to label this. This is interest. Okay, so now we're going to take the regular monthly payment, which is up here, $1,778.04, and we're going to subtract the interest that we're going to pay this month. And when we do this subtraction, again, you might want to try this on your calculator. I'm going to just leave it on this screen. When I do the subtraction, I get $840.54. $840.54. This is the amount I'm paying on the principal. In this well, not me, but Billy and Teddy. Okay, and then step 3 for this first month, the new balance of principal will be the old balance of principal, or the previous, which remember that was up here in step 1, $450,000 in this case, minus what I just paid in principal, $840.54. And when I subtract that, we end up with $449,159. $159.46. So this is month 1. Now we're going to repeat this process for month 2. It's a lot of arithmetic, but it's not necessarily complicated, hopefully. Okay, so now this is the new principal. This is the principal we're going to use for month 2. That's the previous balance of principal. So month 2, we're going to come over here and try to squish this in as best I can. We have $449,159.46 multiplied by that annual interest rate of 0.025, and then I'm going to divide by 12. And when I do this in my calculator, I end up with $935.75. Very similar digits to the last one. But you will notice here that the interest did go down. It is a couple dollars less, about $2 less than the very first month. So you can already see progress happening even in month 2. Oh, I wrote month, I didn't write month 2. Month 2. All right, so step 1 is done. This is the interest for this month 2. Now let's calculate the principal that we're going to pay in month 2. We're going to take that regular monthly payment, $1,778.04, and subtract it by the interest that we're paying this month. And this month in principal, we're paying $842.29. $842.29. This is the principal that we're paying this month. Now we're going to calculate the new balance of the principal. We're going to take that old balance, the previous balance, which was right here in step 1. So we're going to take $449,159.46 and subtract it by the principal we paid this month, $842.29. And now the new principal is $448,317.17. So that's the new principal overall for the mortgage. One more time, let's try this again for month 3. And at this point now I've done 2 months. Pause the video and see if you can come up with the interest in the principal and the new balance of principal after the 3rd month's payment. Okay, how'd you do? Great? Good. Let's compare notes here. So in month 3, remember our starting principal this time is $448,317.17. So we're going to calculate the interest. And the interest, we're going to use $448,317.17. We're going to multiply it by the interest rate, 0.025, and then I'm going to divide by 12. This month, the interest that we're paying is $933.99. So again, we see it going down. Every month, that interest is going to get lower and lower. Now let's calculate the principal that we're paying this month. So that's going to be that monthly payment, $1,778.04 minus $933.99. And this month, we're paying $844.05 of principal. There it is. Lastly, what's the new balance of principal? We're going to take the original one from this month, $448,317.17, and subtract it by $844.05. And we get, after the 3rd month, the balance of the principal is $447,473.12. Yay! Okay, so this was just looking at how the calculations are done. And you'll notice with each of these that the interest is always more than the principal. And again, that's what we expect to see in those first few months. Knowing how to do this calculation I find to be fascinating. However, there are mortgage or amortization calculators out there that will do all this work for us. In fact, we can even check our work right here. So I put this in for February 2022. We can see here that regular monthly payment. This was originally, I did when I typed this in, it was a $450,000 loan, and we can see there's the principal that we paid that first month, that interest, check your notes and make sure it matches. And then there's the remaining balance, right? That's what we got for the remaining balance. So we can see that this does match. And now you're probably saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe she made me do all that work when all of the work was right here. But I do think that it's important to know where these numbers come from, right? This is so fascinating. Even if we can just go to bankrate.com, or even I think Zillow will do this for you. If you go to Zillow.com, there are thousands of websites that will do this, but I do find it fascinating to see where these numbers come from. This was the entire 30 years, but I just took snippets after the first few months so we can see what's happening between the principal and interest as we get further into the loan. So then in the next snippet, we have October 2032, so 10 years later, 10 and a half, I guess. And we see now in principal, we're paying $1,000 and the interest is now only less than $700. So we're paying much less interest even 10 years down the line. Then as we get into the final months of the loan, you'll see the principal, remember that monthly payment's $1,778. Now we're paying $1,737. So we're almost entirely paying principal by the end of this loan in March 2051. And that very last payment, you're only paying $3.70 in interest. However, you'll see there's a column I'm leaving out here, which is this one here, which is the total interest paid. If you make your regularly scheduled payments and don't put any additional money towards the principal, you're paying almost $200,000 in interest for that $450,000 loan. Now, that seems like a lot, and I mean, obviously it is a lot, but that's what mortgages do. They do allow us to buy homes. So even though it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how much interest I paid, we can appreciate what we have. And again, as I mentioned, you can put more money towards principal every month. As long as you're making those monthly payments, you can always put additional money towards principal. And that way, the more you put towards principal up front, the fewer payments you're going to have and the less interest you'll pay overall. And before I sign off here, I am not a mortgage broker or affiliated with any banks. This video is strictly for educational purposes only. This video showed a sample of an amortization schedule and how we calculate principal and interest based on monthly payments. Thank you for stopping by.